Hey, so welcome back to our show, A Year of Mature Learning. Today we have book 45. So you want to tell us what book 45 is, Chris?
Yeah, book 45. It's called Rules for a Night by Ethan Hawke. You know, the actor, Ethan Hawke. Do you know who he is?
You know who he is?
Yeah. So the book's about, I can't remember the exact story behind this, but I think Ethan Hawke's family found some letter from some guy in his family that he had wrote to somebody else and like to his children. They pass it down from generation to generation. And he decided to turn it into a book. I think that's what the genesis of this book was from. But long story short, it's this long form letter from this guy named Sir Thomas Lemuel Hawke that he wrote to his four children. So he was a knight heading off to war and he was fearing not returning from battle. So he wrote a letter to his children to, kind of write down the records of, what he values in life. And, his
He's an ancestor of Ethan.
Supposedly that's the supposed story. I don't know if it's a fictional thing or if he, or what, but I mean, that's the gist of it, I guess. But my personal reflection, I'll go ahead and share my screen here.
Okay.
And while I'm doing that, I'm going to make sure that little guy is okay. He's right at my foot. Perfect. So my personal reflection was, words are a great compass, but values are really, but values and how to be a knight can only be learned through experience. So this is what I mean by this is it was a fun short story and it was cool to hear I often think about myself passing, you hear Luca screaming in the background. And Amelia, I often think about what do I want to pass down to my children? The Year of Magical Learning is something I'm excited to pass down to them someday. They can read their dad's journey after my daughter changed my life and how amazing she was and the quest she started and our mission personally. And they can hear all of my values and read this whole story. I mean, these are my own rules for a night, I guess, if you will, in some way, shape, or form. Someday I'm excited for Luca and my other future children to be able to read this and hear about their sister. And that's why I wrote, I can't imagine. But at the end of the day, you and I have had this question, and this is what I was pondering when I wrote this one is like, if you could go back in time and tell your 20-year-old self or your 10-year-old self or just some point in time in the past self, some very important lessons of where you are today and what you know today and, advice you would give yourself in the past. This is kind of where my thought was going when I was thinking about this. This knight is writing this, passing down all of his thoughts and learnings and everything that he experienced in his life to his children. And I always keep coming back to this. I know, and I'm excited to get your thoughts on this and to get this recorded out there for the world. But I personally have played this mental experiment in my head many, many times in many different ways. I think without a doubt, I can safely say that there's nothing that I could have told my 20-year-old self that would have made an impact or advice that I would have actually taken into heart. And I say that like lovingly, not thinking that I would have ever, wouldn't have listened or wouldn't have gone, oh, that's really interesting. Or like, tried to ruminate on it. But the truth is like ideas and beliefs and thoughts of who goes into what our identity is can only be garnered through life experiences and learning and growing and doing that yourself. Like that is how you learn and grow. It is not by somebody telling you something. It isn't by writing these rules for a night to, for your children and your children's children and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren. All these words are great, but really like, someday Luca and my other future children and Amelia, smiling down from heaven, they have to live their own life. They have to develop their own rules. It's great to have these words and to give them a connection to me, maybe, and to maybe understand their dad's life a little bit. But for me personally, I don't think that there's any substitute for lived experiences versus the words out there, which is why I wrote the title of Words Are a Great Compass. Like it's great to hear words and to guide you, but values are really the only way you can ever become a knight, I guess, myself, in my view these days. So that's kind of where my head's at overall. And I'd love to get your thoughts. How do you feel?
Agree with you. So for me, the way I look at it is human are collections of memories and experiences. Words are like the tip of the iceberg, right? But the meaning is what's submerged under the water. Exactly. And so you can say, look over there, do this thing. It gives you a reference point, but you don't understand the meaning of it until you actually experience it. Because to me, that's how I see humanity is being put together. That's the makeup of humanity. We are what we remember. We are our experiences. We can use somebody's word to kind of guide us in some general directions, but we don't really understand what it means to be a knight until we become a knight. We don't experience the atomic bomb until we become an atomic bomb. I don't think we can understand more than, like I said, whatever the tip of the iceberg, maybe 10%. The rest of them, you have to experience yourself.
I couldn't agree more. I love the way you just said that. Actually, meaning is all that matters. I think you summed it up great. Like, I wish I would have written meaning in there, like or purpose or meaning or whatever. You're right. Meaning is the roots, is all the stuff that's underneath the glacier. And yeah, you just see it's like when we see all these little, you and I talk about this all the time, like with like the Adam Grants of the world and Simon Sinek's, and you see like these tiny little blurbs they put on Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook every single day, and people, thousands and thousands of likes, and people are like, oh yeah, I really agree with that. That doesn't do anything. Like, it's a thought, like, great, thanks for sharing your thought, but that's not, it might influence somebody to want to be curious and maybe to go learn themselves or something like that. But at the end of the day, that thought that you share with me or that Adam Grant shares with me, that doesn't, it's not a part of, it doesn't go into my identity, like that doesn't go into.
Yes, it doesn't mean anything until you actually experience it.
Exactly.
Right?
Until you go.
And like I say, we are what we remember. We are a collections of memories.
Right. So I think I'd say, well, so have I officially, I know you've been rattling this question around, like what, if you were going back to your 20-year-old self, so do you think there's anything you could tell your 20-year-old self today? I'd love to get your thoughts.
And one of the things that I want to tell myself, and I think this is going to set me free, because I think my biggest challenge would be, and I'll tell you that later. So what I want, if I can go back and tell my younger self, is we don't know shit, and neither did anybody else. Right. Don't base your decisions on their experiences, their advice, whatever. Take it and make decisions for yourself. Use it as a compass, but don't use it as the path to take. And to me, 90% of what I become today and some of the things that I've become is because I'm struggling with these things. People are telling me what to do, from society to the people that you look up to, whether that's teachers, professors, parents, or whatever. It is your life. They have some experience and they can give you a general direction, but they can't really give you the experience they give you. You have to experience yourself. So your decisions must be yours, and make sure that it's compatible with you. So to me, that is something I would tell my younger self.
I love that. It's really funny. I was actually writing about this morning. The book that I was writing the reflection for was How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I spoiled the reflection, but that's 100 plus books down the road from where we're at right now. But it was very similar of like, you can win friends by listening to them and talking to them and hearing their story, and like, but you cannot ever influence anyone. Like, influence is different. Influence, you have to be immersed in that, like they have to believe, like they have to be accept, ingrained.
They have to assimilate the ideas that you give them, and that's how to influence. And there's some people that I think is more easily influenced, and there's some people aren't. Like, for example, for me, I'm more influenciable, when I was younger, but now I'm not. Right now I'm gonna say, well, I don't know, I don't have any evidence, I don't see it, I still don't understand it. Before I just take it without questioning the inner workings or whatever, without understanding it, I will be convinced. And so when I become more and more, I guess, knowledgeable, I'm use that knowledge to say, okay, does this make sense to me? If it doesn't make sense, I'm not convinced. Whether I'm right or wrong, I'm still not convinced, because I don't understand it, but still I'm not convinced. But regardless, if you're right, if I don't understand it, I still not be convinced. And so that's the stand I would take.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just really funny because I've told you this before in the past, and I'm really spoiling my reflection on this one, but like, man, I love arguing. Like, it is like, it feeds my soul. Like, it's been something since I was a little kid that, I don't like to argue to make somebody mad. I just like to argue to engage my brain, to get myself fired up, to get engaged, into the I don't care what the position is that I'm even taking. I just love like the battle, let's go toe to toe and see who comes out of this thing, like for me, like that's always the fun of arguing for me. But at the end of the day, like I've never, as in the hundreds and thousands of arguments that I've had over the course of my life that I've done for fun, like there's never been a single time that I've ever walked away from an argument that I either changed my mind or that I changed somebody else's mind. I may have felt like I made a few blows or something like that, but no way in hell did any of those arguments have any impact on how I went about and lived my life afterwards. So like, there's just nothing that you can do to change they can't be a knight until they're a knight. You can't learn from another knight. You have to become your own knight. And that's what I want for Luca and for Amelia, for all my other children to come in the future. And I'm sure that's what you want for your kids, is to you become their own knight, and live their own life and have their own values and meaning and purpose. And it'd be cool to refer back to dad's journey or whatever. I'm happy to share this journey with them, to have them feel like there's a kindred spirit along this quest, but their journey is their journey. And that's that,
right. Right.
Yeah. I know we're at time and we're doing the anti-book club right now. So let's wrap today with a question for everybody. What are your rules to be a knight that you've discovered on your own journey so far? Share it in the comments.
So before, I would like to add something because of the story that Ethan Hawke is telling. I've learned something from TikTok that when you have a young kid, a baby is born, you make an email for him or her, and then you would actually write to him or her every day until he or he's 18. And then you will send that your kid the user and the email and password so that they can see throughout their
cool.
growing years what you send them. I think that would be a great 18-year-old birthday present.
That's awesome. I love it. We need to talk more about that because I feel like that's a business as well.
But I mentioned it because you have Luca, right? Luca there with a book that they did write. It's from Ethan's ancestor writing. Right. It reminds me of that.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining.
See ya.